Welcome to Categories Magazine. We can be found on the web at www.categories.com. It's my pleasure to be speaking with lead singer guitarist Chad Smith from a band Hemlock, and you guys are based out of Las Vegas. Is that correct, Chad?
Yeah, we started in good old Sin City, Las Vegas back in 1993.
Hey, Chad, you ever get mixed up? Because when I first got the press release to about the band, I seen the name Chad Smith, and I thought, oh, maybe this is a guy from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. People ever confuse the two of you?
Every once in a while, people just kind of make a joke about the name being the same, and I always like to joke back because I'm an easygoing guy. I'm like, he's a little bit older and has a way bigger wallet than mine.
Yeah. And when I was reading up on the band, I thought, oh, maybe put down the drumsticks, become a lead singer like Phil Collins.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing that's funny is there's a metal band that Beefcake from Guar, his name is Todd Evans, he was in for like 15 years. He's not the Beefcake right now, they've changed a few times, but he has another thrash metal band named Mobile Death Camp from Toledo, Ohio, and we've toured with them.
Oh, okay.
And their drummer is also named Chad Smith, a whole nother one. So we were at the NAMM convention, I think in 2017, one of the years we were out there.
Yeah.
Me and the drummer from Mobile Death Camp, Chad Smith, we're good friends, and we're always taking pictures and just being funny because we have the same name. But Chad Smith from Red Hot Chili Peppers was there at NAMM doing a signing at Pearl.
Oh, wow. Can you imagine?
We got to go find him to get the trifecta photo.
Yeah.
We had missed him by the day before. We didn't realize his signing was on Thursday instead of Friday because we had a show on Thursday, and then we wound up going to NAMM on Friday. But we missed him by a day. But we always like to tease that we're going to get him one of these times and get a photo for all three Chad Smiths in one photo.
That's funny. I recently interviewed this guitar player named Tommy Bolin. He's a guitar player.
Yeah, I know Tommy. Yeah.
In Doro's band. And anyways, I was kind of joking with him because when I went to search for him online, all kinds he gets, I guess, mixed up with the other Tommy Bolin from Deep Purple, which of course died years ago. And he was telling me a funny story that this lady showed up at one of his guitar clinics years ago and was telling him, you should pretend like you're Tommy Bolin from Deep Purple. You're not him. You get your own thing going. He's like, no, ma'am. My name is spelled differently, but just funny.
Yeah, that's funny.
Now, how long has your band Hemlock been together?
This is our 28th year.
Oh, wow.
28 years. We started when I was 15 years old, and I'm the ripe young age of 44 now, and I'm too stubborn to quit, so we just keep going. Well, I love doing it.
I love stories like that because the reason I ask is amazingly 20 years. Wow. In that time, I've never heard of your band, but it's one of those things that
28 years, we've done a bunch of big tours, and then we also do all the small tours, and we kind of ride that fine line on the underground still to where we've toured with Slayer 3 different times.
Yeah,
we toured with Ministry and Meshuggah, but then we're also humble enough to where we're like, we just want to play music. If we're going to play a Tuesday night in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and there's only 50 people there, who cares? Let's just play music. And we do all the shows up and down, in between, whatever. We've done huge festival shows, toured over in Europe 5 different times, and we just stay grounded because overall we're musicians that just love music. I mean, we're fans of it. And
I love
28 years later, we still keep going.
I love that attitude because, what I was getting ready to say is it's kind of like a pleasant little discovery that, your publicist sent me a little press release about and I've never heard of the band, and I went online and kind of researched you, and it's funny because, again, I put in Hemlock and all kinds of, like, even on YouTube, and all kinds of things come up, and then I have to be a little more specific, Hemlock music videos. I came across your video for a song, Dehumanization, a great video, and it shows your guys as kind of not just your ability as a band, but you got kind of a great sense of humor. I mean, you guys are kind of jumping in like a kiddie pool, but it's great stuff.
I appreciate it. I'm glad you found that. That's a fun one. We were like, what's epic? A big food fight. Let's do a food fight in our videos. So that's the one with the food fight and the slip and slide and all kinds of antics. It's fun.
And I dare say, because I could see you. I could see you like opening for a band like Slayer. I was getting ready to say I could see you guys almost giving Slayer a run for their money because like in that video I'm listening to your vocals and man, I mean you can reach those high notes and I think you could you're as good as Tom Araya or any of those guys.
I appreciate it. I miss Slayer already, even though we got to tour with them, and that's like winning the lottery when you're a metalhead. If you get to open up for Slayer even on one show, you might as well, just count your blessings. It's awesome to rock with Slayer anytime, and the fact that we've gotten to tour with them a few different times, it's just amazing when you really think about when you're 15 years old and you're listening to your Slayer cassette, you know, and you're like, oh man, one day, and you finally get to that point, you wake up and you're like, and it was a Slayer Hatebreed Arch Enemy in Hemlock on the Jägermeister tour. Was the first time we got to do some dates with Slayer. And you're just like, I can't believe this is real. And I went backstage and Kerry King's standing there, and you know, I'm trying not to geek out or fanboy. Yeah. So I just went up and I was being nice, you know. I was like, I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to tour with you guys. This is amazing, you know. He's like, oh, right on. Yeah, it's nice to meet you, bro. And how'd you guys do? You know, how'd you do last night? And you're just sitting there eating a bagel or whatever in the back. And I said, I think we did good last night. He's all, did you get booed off stage? You get shit thrown at you? And I was like, no, we didn't get anything thrown at us. You guys did real good. And these little Slayer fans are pretty wild. So it was funny, and we just became friends, and he was just totally cool. And since then, I mean, we're not like best friends by any means.
Yeah, you know each other.
Us over to his house and played us the album, the Repentless album. This is back then, before the lyrics were even recorded on it, and the vocals were on it. So he's like, "You want to hear the new Slayer stuff? It's not done yet." We're like, "Yeah." So we're in Kerry King's kitchen listening to the new Slayer album without vocals on it, and I'm just like, "This is unreal." I mean, it makes me appreciate even more that we never gave up over all these years of crazy ups and downs and hardships. And I'm like, I never would have imagined chilling with Kerry King in his kitchen, listening to Slayer on his laptop, playing through his little Marshall amp. You know, I mean, it was awesome. Just unreal experiences from doing music, and that's what I love about it. All these years of Hemlock, you know, 28 years, we've met so many people and made so many friends and been all around the world and been to places we never would have been if it wasn't for the music. And
how cool is that? I mean, like to hear an album before it even has vocals, and you know, when you hear the final product, you say, man, I heard those songs just kind of in rawest form before, you know, that's any fan's kind of, you know, a dream come true.
That's like beyond a VIP experience.
And oh wow, you know, and so like I said, I could see you touring with the band. Now that was like the most. Was that on their farewell tour that you guys got to open for them?
No, the tour. The first time we toured with them was 2003. That was on the Jägermeister tour.
Oh, okay. So
and then we did some more dates with them. I think in 2006, and it was them and Killswitch Engage and 3 Inches.
Oh wow.
It was Slayer, Killswitch, and Mastodon. We did a few of those, and then. Then we did a few other Rockstar Mayhem festivals that Slayer and Slipknot, and I think that was the same one that even Motorhead was on when Lemmy was still alive. We got to open up to them. And we were on the Jägermeister stage, and of course Motorhead and Slayer and Slipknot were all on the main stage, but I'm like, it's still part of the same show. I love it, you know, because we had known those guys from doing the other club shows and theater shows with them before. So so 2003, that's Jess Hanneman was still alive then, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Did you have any encounters with him, and what did you think of him as a guitar player?
Amazing. All of them. I mean, it's just, you hear Slayer and you can't deny it. You know exactly who it is and what you're going to get when the intro starts and you start getting goosebumps. And we never became as close with Jeff just because he was a little more
to himself,
quiet, a little more withdrawn, you know. But with Kerry and Kerry's wife Aisha also, she's a firecracker, and we're all loud and obnoxious and probably drink way too many energy drinks. So we get, I guess I shouldn't say obnoxious. We just get hyper because we love being on tour and we love doing music. After all these years, we still are like, hell yeah, we get to finally go on tour again and this and that, you know. And we try to do 150 to 200 shows a year, so you'd think we'd be like worn out and jaded by now, but I'm still like a little kid. I'm like, we got another tour coming up finally in 5 weeks. It's going to go all through the Midwest and up into Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, and it's just us headlining with local bands and regional bands from the area.
Wow.
But the fact that we haven't been able to do any shows in the last 2 years, to go from 150 to 200 shows a year to 0 shows a year, I felt like a crackhead at home that I was just like fiending, and I don't even smoke weed or do any kind of drugs, but I just felt like I was like jonesing for something. I was like, I just want to rock and roll.
Yeah, so this upcoming
stuff at home, you know, and so we're pretty jazzed up about being able to get back on tour again. It starts October 14th, so we're only a couple weeks away.
So this upcoming tour, you guys are actually going to be headlining, huh?
Yep.
How exciting
we do
is
a lot of the headliner club shows, and then if we get the opportunity, we'll do the big tours, like when we went out with Ministry and Meshuggah.
Oh, wow.
We went out with Obituary and Alabama Thunder Pussy for 2 months. We've toured with Hatebreed multiple times, and Chimera back in the day when they were still around. And
wow, you've done it all. Yeah, and you know what I love is just, you know, talking to you for the very first time. You're really energetic guy, real friendly and down to earth. And the thing is, I love that energy you have because even just talking to you, it gets me excited. It makes me like, man, I want to go see this guy when his band plays. I want to go check out their, their next album.
Yeah.
And
we love it. We love music. I mean, growing up on Faith No More and Metallica, and then you like venture into the heavier stuff, and you start listening to the Slayer and Suffocation and Deicide, and we've toured with and opened up for so many people. Like Be Real from Cypress Hill invited us to play the Smokeout Festival in 2001, I believe, out there in LA at the Coliseum.
Oh wow!
And so it was Hemlock and Pennywise and Cottonmouth Kings and Snoop Dogg headlined at Cypress Hill, Bone Thugs and Harmony, Poison the Well, Mudvayne, all these bands played.
Like Cypress Hill, I could see you guys kind of doing a show with. Now it's kind of a different crowd, I would think. I mean, because
it was cool to be able to do that diverse of a show, and then we've toured with punk rock bands too, like Total Chaos. We toured with them, and we've played with DRI and Suicidal Tendencies before. Mm-hmm. But then we've also toured with like the radio rock, the metal bands like Saliva, and we've toured with Disturbed a few shows, and Godsmack. And I'm like, we're gonna be too heavy. But we go out there and we just do our deal, and we had 3 mosh pits going. I'm like, this is awesome. I love it. We've played with Five Finger Death Punch a few times.
Wow.
But then we've also toured with the Guttural of the Guttural, where we've toured with Pathology and Guttural Secrete and Cephalic Carnage and Misery Index.
It's almost like
heavy bands.
All these
Cattle Decapitation, and we bridge that gap between Disturbed and Cattle Decapitation somehow, and I don't know how, but we do it. It's awesome.
All these bands you're mentioning are super heavy. It's almost like, if you guys were to have a competition, which band's heavy? I don't know. And talking about
played with Cannibal Corpse, and I just grinned from ear to ear. I'm like, these guys are so heavy and so brutal, and it's just rad. But then we'll go out and we tour with Head PE, and we've toured with Snot back in the day when Len was alive, and then when Tommy Vex did the reunion tour with the Vocals, we did a bunch of dates with them. So we bridge that gap between melodic, more heavy rock, all the way to straight guttural death metal. We played with Cradle of Filth over in Germany with them and Nachtbluck. And so it's cool because we love all kinds of music, and we take it, put it in a blender. So we'll have death metal, we'll have thrash, we'll have punk, we'll have speed metal, we'll have new metal. We've done dates with Korn, and we put it all into one. We grew up on the old school hardcore Biohazard and Propane. We've toured with Propane 3 different times in Europe.
You've done it all.
And we put it all in the blender and then sprinkle some Hemlock on top, and that's what Hemlock is, because we love everything from radio rock to death metal and everything in between.
Amazing. And now, I was curious, a lot of guys, Chad, I was curious if this is your story, start out like as a guitar player and then kind of become a singer of necessity. Was that kind of your story, or were you always a singer as well?
No, I play bass guitar and do the lead vocals, and it's funny because my brother is the drummer.
Oh, okay, wow.
Him and our original guitar player, a long time ago, were just jamming covers, and it was before we'd even started Hemlock. And they were like, "No, we need a bass player, And me and my friends, we were young, and we were just always out riding bicycles and throwing water balloons at places, whatever, doing dumb kid stuff. So we need a bass player, and they tried auditioning some bass player. I think they were like in junior high, and I might have been in 5th grade or 6th grade. And then my uncle finally started teaching me some bass guitar stuff. He taught me some Black Sabbath riffs, and I think he even taught me Little Pink Houses from John Cougar Mellencamp, and taught me a couple of Rush riffs. And so, that was kind of like the gateway. And he gave me an old PV bass guitar to start on years and years ago. And I remember I got it from him on Valentine's Day. I think I was in 6th grade, 7th grade, something like that.
Wow.
And I just started playing bass and started jamming with my brother, and then it was game on from there. We were just like, all right. And, you start out, and we were really into Biohazard and Propane, and you start kind of like delving into more of the music, and then we got huge into old Sepultura and Pantera. And from the very get-go, we never really... when we first started, before we did Hemlock, we did a couple of covers just to like learn how to like play and how to do it. But then we started writing original music straight out of the gate, and we started as a 3-piece, came out with a little cassette and everything, in Henderson in Las Vegas, Nevada, and just started growing, and we added a second guitar player, and I wasn't a vocalist at all, but they needed a vocalist too, so I just kind of almost by necessity of needing somebody to fill the spot, I filled the spot, and our PA wasn't that good, and I didn't sing very good, so I'm like, I'm just going to scream like this guy in Sepultura and this guy in Biohazard,
I guess that's what I was asking, when other people kind of started telling, hey, why don't you be the singer? Were you kind of amazed, like, oh, you really think I can sing? Or, I mean, how surprised were you, when you started making these records and touring live and people,
I remember when I was a kid and hearing it on our first recording in the studio.
Yeah.
And I sound kind of weird on the album. It's just weird hearing your own voice.
Yeah. That's how it always is. Yeah.
And, but then the more you listen to it, you're like, all right. And you start to learn and perfect your craft, and hone your craft. And over the years, I've really, really worked hard on pronunciation also, because with metal bands, there's so many bands, and I like to tease and say that it's like hardcore Scooby-Doo vocals or something. Where it's like, row, and I'm like, I can't even tell what he's saying because he's not pronouncing the right words,
Yeah.
And even with death metal, I get it, but you still can understand some vocals here and there, like with old Cannibal Corpse and just different things. But like, I love listening to this stuff, but I can't tell what this band is saying, but this one I can.
Yeah, and you're like, when people listen to my songs, I want them to know what I'm saying. I mean,
what I'm saying, so they can sing along. And us and Hatebreed came out close to the same time frame, and they were from the East Coast, we were from the West Coast, and we used to always meet up and do a bunch of shows. And Jamie's one of those too, where you can just understand, and he pronunciates his words good. And I've worked on it, because even when you're doing your real low gutturals, I try to make it to where people can understand what you're saying.
Yeah, even
the high screechies, I try to do some of those Danny Filth, Cradle of Filth high screechies, and then some gutturals, and just to keep the song interesting. But as far as the clean vocals go, I can't sing very good, so I always have the guitar player do the background vocals and throw some melody in.
The funny thing, even like a band like Slayer, sometimes it doesn't really matter because the fans are just so into the band that it's like, Slayer, man, they're fucking heavy. It's kind of, and I would imagine too, as a guy that's kind of writing these songs, you'd almost, maybe you'd be more critical if you had another guy coming in and singing your tunes, because it's like, I know how the song's supposed to sound, I know how I wrote the song, you know what I mean?
I think with Slayer, I'm pretty sure Kerry King writes all the lyrics and then Tom sings them, so...
Yeah, it depends on the band. Because even like a band like Motley Crue, Nikki Sixx almost writes all the lyrics and Vince just sings them. But
so if your band member writes some messed up lyrics or whatever, and then you got to sing them, I guess you're stuck singing them for the next 30 years or whatever. But I love writing lyrics and doing all kinds of art. So I am really, really picky about our lyrical content too, because I always want to try and have really positive lyrics, really upbeat. Yeah. We have a song called Nobody Knows What a Killer Looks Like, and it sounds like it's about serial killers and stuff, but the whole song is written about don't judge a book by its cover, because you never know.
How many times do you hear a news story about he always seemed like such a nice guy. I never imagined he...
I love those stories. People with long hair and tattoos might be the nice guy that holds the door open for you, or helps an old lady across the street, and the guy in his suit and tie or whatever that even... We were playing in... Wichita, Kansas, and there was some friends of ours at the show, and they're like, the BTK killer? I'm like, I've heard of him before. Like, yeah, he used to teach church across the school, across the road from our school, and he'd always invite the high school kids over for pizza, and then we'd read Bible verses. I'm like, the BTK killer? I was like, no way, you knew him? They're like, yeah, we totally would go over there just so we could get free pizza.
Just imagine that. Wow.
And he was at the church over there just inviting kids over to do church stuff, and so I just like writing lyrics where it makes people think, and realize that not everything is as it looks, and just believe in yourself and don't give up, and just real positive lyrics and creative at the same time. Sometimes I'll poke a little bit of fun at something. One of the new songs we have, I say, I'm offended that you get offended by everything so easily, or just stuff like that,
I mean, that is really, I can't wait to hear that song. I mean, that's really, I think, fitting for these times. I mean, when you got so many... I was laughing the other day. You got some of these politicians getting up and saying crap like, "No, a man could be pregnant. A man could get pregnant too." And I'm like, I don't really think so. But it's just ridiculous. I mean, to the point where, like, I was reading something the other day where Disney owns the Muppets now, and so if you get the Disney streaming channel, they put a warning up before each episode of the Muppets because they want you to know that Miss Piggy and Kermit are racist in some of the episodes because they had like a Confederate flag. I mean, just silly stuff like that, I mean,
it is crazy how delicate the world has become, but I also don't like to stir things up to where, I hate the division of all of it, I guess is what...
Yeah, that's the worst part of all.
Angry, and I'm kind of like an old school hippie, even though I don't smoke the weed and I shower a lot more, but I like an old school hippie where I just want everybody to get along and have fun. And even though I'm a metalhead and it sounds rowdy and it's crazy, I just want people to be friends and enjoy life and enjoy the music and
I'm with
travel
you
as much as you can.
What happened to let's love one another?
Exactly. Exactly.
It's amazing. Now talk about you mentioned you're working on some new music. How close are you to releasing the next CD?
We actually had 2 albums that we wrote 20 songs during all the lockdown. We had a 3-month tour. We were supposed to go to Europe and it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And so we were like, well, let's just take all these parts and pieces we've been working on and get focused. So we spent the year writing and recording, and we recorded 2 albums. And we actually released them on our own just because everything was so uncertain and we weren't sure what was going on. We're like, I just want to get the music out there.
Yeah.
But since then, we've actually gotten a new manager, a new booking agent, and a new publicist because stuff is starting to come back around.
Wow.
And Logan Mader, the guitar player from Machine Head, and he's also recorded and produced and engineered Five Finger Death Punch and Gojira, and he's done all kinds of just huge albums and projects. He's done Fear Factory and Soulfly. He was in Soulfly for quite a while, actually, too. But Logan Mader, he is doing another take at it, a remix and a remaster on the albums just to bring them to life even more. And we're going to do an official re-release now that we actually have a tour to back it up. Because also before we were like, I don't know if we're going to ever be able to tour again. We're not able to even fly overseas, and we had bought all of our tickets 10 days prior and just so many uncertainties. So we put them out, but now that we have tour dates coming up and we're going to have an official release, and then Logan's mix and master, he just brought the albums and the songs to life. So he did Violence and Victory. That's one of our new albums, and we're going to be putting that out. So our new manager is actually shopping it to European labels and to South America and to Japan, and who knows, maybe even in the States, and going to do an official release now that we have a big 5-week tour coming up. And then we're going to do part 2 of the tour starting probably in mid-February or March of next year. And just keep grinding, because we love to do it. We love traveling. We love the music. We love seeing people smile and headbang at the same time. That's what Hemlock's all about.
I love that. And I got to tell people, you're really in good company, because talking about the band that's been doing it over 20 years, I mean, people should know you. I know you got the same publicist as Judas Priest and Michael Schenker, so you guys are in real good company.
Yeah, we were excited to get Chip on board. He's helping push it to new levels and just reaching so many more media outlets. So I appreciate him, and I appreciate you, because the more people that know about Hemlock, the better. And when we toured in 2018 over in Europe, we were on tour with Head PE, and it was our first time actually ever touring through England. We had been to Ireland before, and we've been all through Germany and Switzerland and all the EU state countries, but we had never been through England. So it was our first time, and it was just the same thing every single night, because we're playing for Head PE's crowd, and there'll be 2 or 3 people there that I've heard of you guys online. But by the end of our set, everybody had come up to us at the merch booth when we were done, like, how in the hell have I never heard of you guys before?
Yeah,
I've been around for 27 years at that point, whatever it was. He's all, how have I never heard of you? You guys are like my new favorite band. I'm like, it's never too late to start, and I appreciate it. We said, we've tried coming over to London, we've tried coming over to Wales and Scotland and all that, and we've never had the luck with it before or the financial backing to do it. Now we're here, so now we're homies. Let's rock, and everybody just thought it was so cool. And another guy over there did an article, and he did an article, and it said overnight success in 25 years or something like that. It was a cool take on it, because he's like, I never had heard of you until now. We just never had the luck with the record labels and all that stuff. We almost signed to Roadrunner Records back in 2001, but it was right before 9/11 had happened. We were in the studio, actually, with Mikey Doling from Snot and Soulfly.
Wow.
We were in Malibu recording our Pigeonholed album in 2001, and I remember they woke us all up early, and 9/11 had went down, and right before that, the guys from Roadrunner Records were flying to all of our shows, and Monty and everybody were all into it, and they were excited. It's like, cool, we're going to sign to Roadrunner Records. And back then, that was when Roadrunner had Typo, Machine Head, Cold Chamber, all the bands, Biohazard, and Roadrunner was like the go-to, Fear Factory, all of them. We were like, this is going to be so sweet. We're going to fit on the roster so good here. And then 9/11 went down, and everybody in the industry, everybody on the radio stations, everybody was like, oh, because, it was just a time of mourning. Nobody wanted to sign a band that had a song that said "Nobody Knows What a Killer Looks Like" and this and that. So it just was weird timing on it, and not to blame one thing in specific, but that was a huge reason why we never signed with Roadrunner Records. And we've talked with different labels over the years and got close here and there. We almost did something with Century Media, but it just never worked out. And we're like, we're not going to sit around and wait. We're going to just go out there and do it ourselves. So we kind of became the kings of the underground and the do-it-yourself champions, where we just go out and do it. But now having Chip on board with publicity and our new manager and our new booking agent, I think it's going to take it to bigger levels. And even though it's been 28 years, I'm like, it's never too late. Let's just keep going. Let's push it to that next level. Let's tear it up some more.
Yeah, and you know what I love about the story you were just telling us about, how people were just kind of got the same story as me, just kind of discovering the band, and they're writing stories like, you know, overnight sensation. It took 25 years. I mean, people that are just discovering the band, you know, you got the percentage of your loyal fan base, probably been with you since the beginning, and you got these people that are just now discovering the band, and for those people, they really dig what the band's about. They have a privilege of going back and listening to the whole back catalog and kind of getting familiarized with your stuff, you know?
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I like doing that too, where I'll hear somebody. I had heard of Madball for years, and I never really listened to them as much. And just in the last 5-6 years, I've been getting into them a lot more. Just, you know, and I always loved Propane. They were one of my favorite bands, and we've toured with them 3 different times. But for some reason, just didn't ever really get into it as much. I loved listening to Sick of It All and all that stuff, but for some reason, Madball just wasn't on my radar. And then now, diving back in and going back to it, I'm like, oh yeah, I had heard that song years ago, and I didn't ever realize that was them. And then you hear the next one, you're like, oh, this one's even better. This one's awesome. And then you hear another one, this one's cool. So I'm glad when people find it and discover Hemlock, and then they get excited and they're like, no way. And you know, some of these people that went to our shows, they were like, I used to go to your show in Las Vegas at the Hundreds Theater when I was 15, and now I'm going to bring my kid to your show at the House of Blues, and he's 15. I'm like, holy shit, we've been doing it a long time.
Yeah, I mean, 2 decades worth of fans. You know, that's really something to be said. And you know, talking about going over to Europe, I mean, do you find each time when you go over there that, I mean, I hear stories that the European fans, they really love their metal, and they really...
It's more, I don't know if it... We have a lot of diehards here in the States, too, because they've been with us for years. But over in Europe, there's a weirder... It's almost like they appreciate it even a little bit more, because they know they're not going to be able to see you next month, or whatever it might be.
That's what I was getting ready to say. They
realize that you've traveled halfway around the world just to be there.
Yeah, that's the word, appreciation. They have much more of an appreciation, I think.
And then stuff like when you're in Eastern Germany and you're doing a show, and there's this guy, and just this big buff guy, he comes up, he's drinking his beer, and he's like, man, when I was a kid, when I was like 7 years old, I was on the other side of the Berlin Wall looking up at the gate, you know, looking up at the barbed wire and the guys with machine guns, and I was on my little bicycle, and I never would have imagined that I would be standing on this side of the wall, drinking beer, hanging out with bands from America, from Las Vegas and from New York, and he's like, this is just unreal. And he's telling me this story. You'd seen all the stuff on TV and read in the history books, but then when you're there, and there's a guy at a show, and he's telling you, and I got goosebumps. I was like, oh man, that's crazy to really put it into perspective when you're over there, that this is where that happened, or when you're in Italy or in Rome or in anywhere, when we were over in Greece, and just all the places we've gone. I'm like, a little kid, I'm like, I just want to go see all of it. I want to go take pictures. I want to go, you know, it's neat to be able to go, and I wouldn't have ever been able to go to these places if it wasn't for Hemlock. It's just cool that that's the gateway. That, you know, we've been to Ireland, and now we got friends over that we message all the time, like, well, when you coming back, you know. And so it's really neat that we've been able to do it so long, and I feel fortunate, and it's definitely from working hard and grinding and not giving up and just keep going and going and going.
And it's got to trip you out too, like being in a country like Greece or even Germany, where a huge portion of the audience doesn't even speak English, but they're so into your music, and as you're up there on stage, they're singing right along with you. You know, maybe
it's
even
unreal,
in another language.
Yeah. When we were over in Hungary, we played a big show in Budapest, and our friend over there, his name's Zolt, and he doesn't speak very good English, and of course it's also hard at a loud concert to talk. You know, you're trying to like figure out, but we become friends over the years, and he's all smiling, and his friend was kind of help translating, and he wanted me to draw the Hemlock H on his leg, because he was going to go get it tattooed the next day. I was like, holy shit, this is awesome, no way. So I'm trying to draw it, you know, good, but it's hard to draw on a sweaty leg at a show, and you're all amped up from doing the show, and probably too many energy drinks at the time, so I drew the big Hemlock H on his leg, and sure enough, he went and got it tattooed the next day, and I didn't know at the time, but Zolt also owns a tattoo shop in Budapest, Hungary, and he asked me if it was okay if he could name his shop after one of our songs.
Oh, how cool is that?
That is so sweet.
Yeah, yeah.
We have a song called Brutality, and it's talking about like beauty and brutality mixed together, so it's brutality, and so he named it Brutality Tattoo. And
wow.
like, there's a tattoo shop in Budapest named after one of our songs. That is so awesome.
How cool is that? You ever had anybody like tattoo the band's name on themselves?
Yeah. There's probably 500 different people that have gotten Hemlock tattoos over the years.
That's the ultimate fan.
It's unreal. Every time I still am like, that's down for life, you know. And there's people that have gotten. There was a friend of ours down in Tucson that just got a portrait of me on his ribs.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's unreal. And our other friend in Phoenix, Arizona, got a tattoo of me as a Garbage Pail Kid throwing up, and it's just.
I mean,
it's up in Boise, Idaho, that has another Garbage Pail Kid version of me where he's pulling his dreads and his brain is splitting open so you can see his head. And just these really cool tattoos. Another one up in Montana that I'm thinking of. He's got another one where it's like a Jack in the Box, and it's me and my brother kind of coming out as little cartoon characters. And the Hemlock H, it's like an H within a circle. I drew it in high school. I remember I was like in geology class or I don't know something, and I was just sitting there and I was like, I'm gonna draw a Hemlock logo, and I always really liked Sepultura S back in the day. That's kind of like Out of the Bones.
Wow, it's one thing, you know, to have your band's name tattooed on somebody, but for somebody to go
crazy. I love it. So the Hemlock H has been the most popular tattoo. People get different versions and variations of that. Like one of our other friends got one made out of bicycle parts and like spokes and sprockets of a Hemlock H. But there was a guy in England, and he had me draw a cartoon of my face on his forearm and then write Hemlock, and then all of us sign our autographs around it. And he went and got that tattooed the next day, and it's his whole forearm. And I was like, that's crazy, too, that he wanted our signatures tattooed on him. And that was kind of, I think there's maybe like probably 10 different people that have our signatures tattooed, but most of them get the Hemlock H, or they get a skull design from a T-shirt that I've drawn, because I also do all the T-shirt and artwork and designs and album covers and everything.
You know, that's got, like I said, that's got to be the ultimate compliment. One thing to have your band's name on somebody, but your
everything,
your personal,
unreal. It's like a whole encompassing thing to where I feel every day just so lucky. I go to bed at the end of the night with a smile on my face.
Your personal face, though, that's amazing. If somebody wants your image on them as well.
And we're not arena big by any means. I mean, we've played arenas before with bigger bands, but I don't care. We just want to keep playing music, you know. Whatever it takes, we just get out there and grind it and have fun and see our friends and travel the world.
I mean, that's another level of, I don't know, popularity or success when people go to that length, because, I mean, you know, they don't just get any band's name tattooed on them. It's got to mean something to them.
The diehards, I love it. It means something to them, and I mean, it goes even deeper to where I've had a few people come up to me at shows and they tell me that the lyrics saved their life, and I'm like, holy, that's unreal. And you just start to really understand how important music is, and that it doesn't get the credit that it should, because I mean, even stores nowadays with no music for sale in them anymore, and it's morphed over to all online. I'm like, music is the soundtrack to people's lives, and you realize a moment and a time and a place that you heard a song or whatever. And one of the stories was a guy was going down to the river to go shoot himself, and he had a loaded gun and everything, and he said that he had random song on shuffle, and one of our real positive songs, Hemlock, came on, and he said he just felt this overwhelming urge to not do it, and he threw the loaded gun into the river and saved saved his life. And I was like, that is unreal. I never would have thought writing those lyrics that would have saved somebody's life. And I think there's 2 or 3 of them that were similar stories to that. And
I love stuff like that, you know. And as a songwriter, I'd imagine, I mean, you know what you write your songs about, but like you said, music is universal, and it's one thing I have always believed has the power to bring people together. But as a songwriter, you must love that when somebody comes up and tells you, you know, they got something different out of your song, or they got a different message.
That they really attached to it. I love it. I mean, it's so amazing, the connection that you can do and that you can make friends. And
because you might think, hey, I didn't write the song about that, but hey, that's great if you got something else out of it, you know?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
And what's it like being in a band with your brother? Do you guys get along pretty well, like a lot of brothers?
Yeah. I mean, we always have little brother squabbles here and there, but it's funny enough to play it off because we also know that we're there to do the music, and we both are humble and realize enough, that not everybody gets this opportunity, and that we've worked really, really hard to get to where we're at. So we both also really have a deep respect for all the years and years that we've dedicated and sacrificed doing what we do to not make very much money. It all disappears to the gas tank.
I mean, one guy can affect that. I mean, it's funny because there's so many famous bands where it features, these two famous brothers, like Van Halen, even or like even the Black Crowes, where those two brothers, they hated each other for years. Now they're just kind of
Oasis. Those guys would heckle each other on stage.
It's funny.
Yeah, I think that I read something about Creedence Clearwater too, to where those brothers, they had some discrepancy because their manager or something. I don't remember.
No, it's even. I mean, it came down to the older brother. The older brother. His name was Tom Fogerty, and he started out as the lead singer. But the managers, they felt the younger brother was a better singer, and so that's John Fogerty, and he became like legendary singer. And it's so
I love Creedence. Yeah,
it's so sad because the older brother Tom has been dead for years, since 1990, I think. Died when he was 46, and the younger brother's still like, he doesn't even refer to him as his brother. Well, he does now, but there was a time when he referred to him as my former bandmate. I'm like, wow, the guy died. You won,
Yeah. But stuff like that happens where the singer, like you mentioned Phil Collins earlier, and they didn't want him behind the drums. They wanted him as the front man and up in the forefront. So he still, plays drums here and there, but they wanted him at the front. Same with the Carpenters, with Karen Carpenter. Yeah. They didn't want her playing drums and singing behind the drum set. They wanted her to be up in the front. And
Phil Collins, I guess I was reading, he's drummed for so many years now. He's like 70-something now. But he's just singing now because, he's affected his hands so much that he can't even play anymore.
Yeah.
But that's something that happens to drummers. Now, you guys are from...
guy, though, for sure.
You guys are from Vegas, and, Vegas in the last probably 10 years become like what they refer to even as Music City. I mean, it's the one place you can go and, pretty much any night of the week, get a gig, show up at a casino. I mean, what's that been like for you guys, living in Vegas?
We're hardly ever here. We're always on tour.
Isn't that funny?
The Vegas scene, for years and years, it wasn't as good of a metal scene or a rock scene because all the casinos, you can go listen to music anywhere, but all they want is covers. They want cover bands. So as far as original music and the original local scene, it was way more underground. But we figured out ways as kids to just promote the living hell out of our shows, and we started spacing them out where we'd only do 3 shows a year, and we'd go out and we'd do like 50,000 flyers for one show, and we'd go out and do billboards that we would hand paint with stencils and put them on the side of the freeway, and we would get sponsors to do radio ads and whatever it took. We would just go ape shit on promoting.
That's really do-it-yourself style, like you said. That takes me back. That's what the LA music scene used to be. It's so sad how it's really died. Vegas has really got more of a rock scene these days than...
Yeah, and the local scene, it started kind of thriving, and people, the other bands were like, man, we need to promote like Hemlock does, and they even did a big article in the newspaper about Hemlock's promoting and selling out the House of Blues or selling out the Hunter's Theater, and they're promoting, and doing like $1,000 promotional campaign versus these huge casinos and these huge buildings or whatever, spending millions to promote. But Hemlock's doing it on such an underground DIY level, and we'd go and we'd zip tie signs up to fences on street corners and stuff. At Hemlock at the 100, next Friday or whatever, just promoting like crazy. We were animals and machines about it, but it really, really got us noticed to where all the promoters in town also wanted us to open up for all the big bands, and that's how we were scoring all those big, shows. And then it got to the point to where we were drawing bigger than a lot of the even nationals that would roll through, and then we were like, well, we'll play on your show, and you take all the money. We don't care about the money. We just want to go on tour. So we started swapping like 2 weeks for a show or whatever, And
I bet they were like, hey, you don't care if you get paid? Okay, you're with them.
And we just wanted to get out there. We were so hungry to tour and to go, and we just kind of started building up like that. And there is a good scene in Vegas, but you got to tap into it right because there's always so much competition. You have all the residencies. You can go see Carlos Santana. You can go see Billy Idol. You can go see all these different events. So you have to really tap into the rock and the metal community when it comes to that and go almost above and beyond a promotion. And so many people don't do the old school flyers or posters. It's all just digital now. And to me, you could just scroll past that so easy. So I'm like, you need to do that. There's a huge part of social media promotions. but also there's something about having a stack of flyers in your back pocket, and when you go to the store and you see somebody in a Slayer shirt, you're like, hey, check it out, you know?
Even a lot of the bands that used to play the LA scene and that, you know, you go online now and they post all these like classic flyers from back in the day. So as far as just archiving your band and stuff, it helps with that. And you know,
I have a flyer from every one of our shows that we've done, and it's just boxes and boxes.
See, that's dedication. That's dedication. I mean,
I have one that we played, and it was Hemlock, and then it was a brand new band that didn't even have a record label yet, that nobody knew who they were, named System of a Down.
Oh, wow. Now let me.
Snot was third when Lynn was still alive, and then Machine Head headlined, and it was a Tuesday night, and I think it's $8 if I remember right. I'm gonna have to dig the poster out and see. And I was like, $8 for Machine Head, Snot, System of a Down, and Hemlock. I'm like, that is crazy.
That's crazy. I mean, you love to pay that now. Let me ask you, Chad. You're originally from Vegas, right?
Yeah. Grew up in Henderson and Las Vegas. Yeah.
See, I think outside of Slaughter, maybe you guys are probably the only real true bands from Vegas for years that any notoriety. And a lot of the reason Vegas is becoming what it is, a lot of the old '80s rockers from LA and that are moving to Vegas now and doing.
I think they do cheaper living and maybe not quite as crazy a politics, even though it's crazy everywhere. But Vegas just having a 24-hour nightlife, I think it attracts to the musicians.
But even LA now, they still got what's called pay to play. It's just it's ridiculous. Even tribute bands got to pay to do that.
Slaughter and Hemlock were the two for a long time, and then the Killers came out, and they're not heavy by any means, but they had huge success, and I love them. They had huge success, and then Panic at the Disco came out, and then I didn't realize it, but Escape to Fate and Ronnie Radke sang for them, and then now he's falling in reverse, but I didn't realize he had lived in Henderson and used to see one of our friends way back in the day had graffitied a bunch of Hemlock stuff.
Wow. But see, that gives you
like this big face, and Ronnie Radke was like, I was skating in the drainage ditch out there in Henderson. I used to always see that big Hemlock thing. I'm like, said, I didn't do it. I said, but I know who did. That was one of our friends back in the day. Just a small world, and those guys are from Vegas, and then now a lot of bands have kind of relocated and claim Vegas. Like I think even Five Finger Death Punch, I know that not all of them were from Vegas originally, but our friend Chris Cale that plays bass guitar from him, he's a Vegas guy and had moved here, and so they're a Vegas band now. And Otherwise also is another one that got a lot of success and big notoriety. But as far as the heavy metal and the real grind stuff, and just chuggy old school, it definitely
I think that gives you real legitimacy, as far as being a true Vegas band. And another band.
There's been a lot of great local bands over the years, but it's just hard to branch out, because the other thing that we learned the more that we toured is that being from Vegas, you've got a 6-hour drive to Phoenix, and you've got a 5-hour drive to LA, you've got an 8-hour drive to Reno. But when you're out on the East Coast, if you're from like Connecticut, you got a 2-hour drive, and you've got a 1-hour drive to New York, or just shorter distances. So when we were kids and you don't have any money at all, you're like, damn, we got to come up with $150 so we can make it to our Phoenix gig just in fuel. And it's harder to tour and to branch out from Vegas because there's nothing around. It's not as close of doing the tour circuit. So you almost need a better financial ground base to start to tour when out there on the East. I mean, of course, on the East Coast you have all the tolls and the bridges and the parking and all the crazy out there. But I'm like, you can drive an hour and be in a whole new market, and then you can go over there to Worcester, Mass, and you're right there, and then you can go over here, and you're over in Boston, and you're in a whole new market. And it's kind of like going from Boulder City to Henderson to Las Vegas to Pahrump, but they're all huge metropolitans that you can play in. So it's hard being from Vegas and being a metal band and not having the support. So a lot of good bands that have come around, they didn't last like we did, but we just kept going and going and going.
I think probably the reason you guys lasted is the constant gig, and that's got to be it, because like you said, when you're a do-it-yourself kind of band, like you guys have been for several years, you got to put as much money back into the band, just to do what you do, to be able to survive. And so, but at the same time, if you don't have a big label behind you, it's a kind of a double-edged sword. If you have a big label behind you, of course you got maybe a little more backing, financial backing in that. But then again, if the album doesn't, isn't a big hit right away,
if it doesn't take, then you get in so much debt, it's kind of like sinking in debt to where you're going to go bankrupt with the label, and then they're not going to support you regardless. So we've tried always just taking it a little bit at a time and doing what we knew we could afford to do.
Yeah.
I saw that, I just saw recently that Sebastian Bach moved to Las Vegas. I was excited to see that. It's just funny because that was my first concert ever.
Wow.
My dad took me and my brother when I was in 6th grade. It was Skid Row and Bon Jovi on the New Jersey
can you believe
tour.
it's 30th anniversary of Slave to the Grind this year?
I know. Yeah. On one of our new songs, I'm going to have to send it to you. We have a song called Enslaved by Currency.
Okay.
It's just talking about how the world it's unfortunate that the world revolves around money instead of,
Yeah, you guys are really lucky that you've had that longevity because of the constant touring. Because, it's not like it once was. Even when bands like Kiss were getting started, it took till their 4th album till they really had a major hit.
Yeah.
But if they if they would have been around in 1993 instead of 1973, they might not have. They might have been dropped after the first album if it didn't sell.
There's always a huge expectation from all these labels and stuff, and I'm like, metal, especially with us with the longevity, there's more of an underground, just die hard, where they stick with you for life. It's grassroots to where it's not just, I like that album, but they're like, man, I love Hemlock. They're like my go-to. They're like every album, and stuff like that. But
it's like Motley Crue. A lot of people first got into Motley Crue when they had Dr. Feelgood come out, and it was a #1 album all over MTV. But I was like, I was a Motley Crue fan since day one. Then you got kind of the casual fans.
Even with Korn, a lot of people didn't find out about it until the big Follow the Leader album.
Yeah.
And even the radio stations wouldn't really push them. They had a little bit of underground success, but that Follow the Leader was the one that really catapulted them to huge status. And then even like with Lamb of God, I remember seeing them at club shows and doing stuff with them that...
Lamb of God is another interesting band because, I'm guilty of this myself. I wasn't even I'd heard of the band, but I really didn't know a lot about them until, the singer was like in a foreign prison for, a couple months.
Oh, yeah, over in the Czech Republic,
and he's being accused of, because somebody jumped up on stage and, died, accusing him of pushing the guy off the stage. I'm like, man, that's why a lot of people even know anything about that band and what a thing to be known for, but luckily, he got all those charges dropped. Thank God.
Yeah, he stayed over there and toughed it out, and I give props to Randy. He's a good friend of ours, and I texted him on his birthday. I hadn't talked to him in a while. I just told him happy birthday a few months ago, and wasn't sure if I'd hear back from him because they get super busy and stuff's firing back up. And he's like, "Man, it's great to hear from you, buddy. I'm out surfing on my 50th birthday."
Wow. And
it was cool.
And Chad, how big of a Metallica fan are you?
I love them.
So
it's one band we haven't toured with yet. And I always say yet because there's still that chance. We've done some dates with Megadeth and touring with Slayer, and we've played with Anthrax. So we've done some dates with Testament. So we're getting the big thrash Bay Area scene, but we've never played with Metallica yet. And
and here's what I was getting ready to ask you.
Their first 4 albums are my all-time favorite. I still love And Justice for All. It's so amazing, even though the bass guitar's not in there. Everybody always jokes, they're like, you're a bass player. But the songs are still so epic and so strong. And Master of Puppets, Ride the Lightning, Kill 'Em all that stuff. When you hear any of those songs, you reach for your volume knob and you want to turn it up because they're that good. You're like, I need it louder. Even if it's already up to 10, you're like, I need it louder.
Yeah,
Metallica, hell yeah.
Cliff Burton, it's amazing. Just within 3 albums, and he died so tragically young. But man, what a huge legacy that guy has just on those 3 albums. And see, that's what I was getting ready to ask you. So, were you one of those fans that when they did the Black album that came out, did you kind of reject that and think, oh, these guys they sold out, or did you become a fan of it?
I was proud of them. I understand, and same even with Sepultura with the Roots album. There was a lot of metalheads that hated on it, and I was like, it's still really, really strong songs, even with the Black album. It's undeniable how big they are, and I never want to
take away from that.
Anybody or take away from success, because same thing. They might be grinding, they're playing these huge things, but there's so much money always going out that the band members are the last ones to see any of the profit. Managers, all the bus drivers, everybody's got to get paid first. So for Metallica to do that, and those songs are so catchy on the Black album, I loved it. I mean, if I was going to sit down and crank up the Black album or And Justice for All, and those were the choices I'd put in And Justice for All, just because I like the aggression a little bit more myself. But there's there's nothing taken away from the Black Album. I mean, it's still huge, and it sells more today still than so many new metal albums coming out, and that's, 30 years old now or whatever it is.
Yeah, I dare say Jason Newsted, I think he was a perfect guy to replace Cliff at the time. I mean, he not only was he influenced by him, but I mean, he was such a Metallica fan himself. I mean, I recently read an interview with him where somebody was asking, why when you were on stage with Metallica did you always wear a Metallica t-shirt? So he's like, because that's my band, man. I was trying to advertise the hell out of a band I was in.
Yeah, I love Newsted. He's a good dude. And I don't know him personally.
No, but yeah.
I haven't ever met any of the guys in Metallica. I mean, I've been fortunate to, meet and hang out with the guys in Pantera and meet and hang out with the guys in Slayer, but never Metallica yet. But
so I got to ask,
what was it like meeting? When I was in ninth grade, I had to do a report on somebody that you looked up to, and I actually did a report on Cliff Burton.
Wow.
And stood in front of the class and told about the bus wreck and told about the history of Metallica and this and that. I mean, this is years ago because that's when I was in high school still. But then as part of the project, we had to play a song. So we took my classroom into one of the small theaters in the high school, and we played Seek and Destroy.
Wow.
I got an A+ on the project just because it was funny to play during the middle of school hours and play Metallica songs.
How cool is that? And what was it like? You mentioned meeting, I guess Pantera. So what was it like meeting Daryl and Vinny? Awesome. I mean, just tons. I didn't ever really get to hang out with Dime as much. I got to say hello to him, and it was one of those quick passings. But we met Vinny actually like 4 different times. Oh, wow.
5 different times. One of them was at the clubhouse that they have out there in Dallas, the strip club that the Abbott brothers
legendary,
owned. We went there, and he was out there just sitting and chilling, and kind of like off in the corner in the dark, like table, or there's like the VIP area. I just went up to him, and he always was polite and nice, and just told me, I was like, oh yeah, I'm with Hemlock. He's all, oh yeah, I've heard of you guys. It's just cool, He's all, how you guys doing?
And cool. I was going to ask, so being a singer and a guy who plays in a band yourself, when you first hear about Dimebag's death, I mean, it had to kind of just, I mean, we were
on tour with Slayer the night that it happened. We actually were playing a show with Slayer in Billings, Montana.
Wow.
And it was so awesome of a day because we're playing with Slayer. We're like, yes, all right. And we had just got done with our set, and we got off stage, and then it was early days of cell phones, so not everybody had cell phones. Yeah. So you started getting this kind of like mixed kind of messages of, oh my, Vinny and Dime are dead, and everybody got shot, and this and that, and we were like freaking out. And Slayer, I think Slayer was just getting ready to go on stage, and we were out by the merch booths, and we started like freaking out and telling each other and starting to tell people in the lobby because you're not sure what's going on. Then like within the next half hour, more and more people were getting the phone alerts from their friends, and they were coming out into the lobby and they're crying, and I'm like, this is so weird to see like metalheads crying at a show and like freaking out, and people are like trying to go out and call, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. And so it turned out from this really awesome day, it's just this weird like surreal nightmare of a day. And Slayer was doing this big meet and greet in the back that we were all part of, and
everybody's down.
And Carrie and I want to say, I think Carrie and Tom came out still to do it, but the other guys, I don't remember. Maybe it was just Carrie. He came out and still did the meet and greet, but at that time they weren't sure what was going on. And of course, those guys being like best friends with Dime and everybody, so they all went to the bus to go call and go see what's going on, and just everybody mourning and all the fans in the back. So it was just like a dark, weird night, and then a couple days later we were playing with Slayer again in Las Vegas at the House of Blues, and I was almost ready to go on stage. I went right behind Carrie's rig, and I was stretching, just kind of bending over and stretching, and I looked, and in the back of his rig right behind, he had some lights and stuff, and his amplifiers are all right there, and he had a picture of Dime printed out and 2 shots of the Black Tooth Grin.
Oh, wow,
and said, cheers, Dime. And I was like, oh my God. And I started getting all teared up. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy.
Bet. What a way to end the night.
And I heard he would take a shot himself and dump one out for Dime every single night on that tour. And we went out and we just blew the show up and fired it up, and just so much energy. And
I bet.
It just really, really brings you back to reality that you never know how long it's going to go and how long it's going to last. So you got to appreciate it while you can.
What I was getting ready to ask is, when you get that kind of news and you hear of it, another performer, it doesn't just die, but he's basically murdered on stage. I mean,
it wasn't a car wreck, or it wasn't a drug overdose or anything. It was just unnecessary violence.
Have you ever had fear since hearing about what happened with Dime? Did you ever have that fear that, that could happen to us.
I try not to dwell on that too much, just
that's
because
good,
I'm positive and optimistic. But I know what you're saying. Where and I always am kind of like the ringleader of happiness and positivity amongst our own camp, because it's easy if one guy starts getting kind of grouchy or angry, and the attitude just rubs off on everybody.
Yeah, I like that. I like that attitude, Chad. You know,
always aware and alert. You know, because you never know overseas. You're out of the country. If somebody were to even get hurt or anything, you don't know the hospital systems or the insurance situations, or you don't know if you're going to go to jail if you're trying to defend yourself, kind of even with Randy in that whole situation. So when we get to a club, I'm the type of guy where I get out the white gaff tape and I start marking the edges of the stage, and I mark the stairs, and the guys at the club, they're like, hey, you're the singer of Hemlock, what are you doing? I said, I'm marking the steps that none of my friends or any of these local bands wipe out and break their leg, because if they break their leg, then we can't tour. And we're always aware of our surroundings. We're always trying to pay attention to stuff, because I don't want anybody to get hurt. And I don't really think that the craziness of somebody going and shooting up a concert, I'm not oblivious to it. I mean, I know it could happen, and happened at that other show over in Paris where they went over there and shot up that club where the Eagles of Death Metal were playing. Yeah,
I mean, I kind of like your attitude.
At an Ariana Grande show or whatever over in London, and that stuff is just unreal. It's a bummer, but I like just try to stay focused and positive on life.
I like your attitude, you know, as far as having a positive outlook on life. I try to be that way myself. In fact, sometimes, you know, when I'm home and I'm relaxed, I just love to, you know, watch TV and laugh. And sometimes, like I've had somebody tell me before, you know, you laugh too much, or, you know, what's wrong? I'm like, well, maybe you should try it. You know, that's kind of
I try to tell people, I'm like, get your horns up and get your smiles up. You know, I want people to have fun and enjoy it, because there's a lot of death metal bands or a lot of metal bands. You know, that's another one I didn't say was from Las Vegas, is our friends in Guttural Secrete. They're like super grind, super death, just real extreme, and I love them. They're another underground metal band, but they still are going, and they actually tour overseas and everything too. But there's so many bands that just kind of have like a negative connotation of metal, and I love it. I mean, I love the music and I love the aggression, but I see through it, you know, and I realize I'm like, they're just playing music, they're telling a story. But with us, I've tried to always be even more upbeat, even if some people think it's silly or goofy. I'm like, Faith No More is one of my favorite bands of all time, and they covered everything. They had personality, they had humor, they had serious parts, they had jazz music mixed in with punk rock, with death metal, and I try to bring all the elements, but still make sure that everybody at the show that took the time to come to the show and to pay money to be there,
to enjoy themselves,
that they go home with a smile on their face.
That's
I want to make sure everybody enjoys it.
Entertaining the people, you know, that came to see you.
If they wanted to listen to the album, they could sit at home and listen to it. But they want to be entertained. They want to see a show. So we try to put on a 200% high energy show every single time we play, even if it's 20 people or 2,000 people. I mean, we rock out just as hard every night, because I've also seen that on tour sometimes, where if there's 80 people at a show and then a bigger band comes out and they kind of pout on stage, I'm like, that's not doing any good. Those 80 people paid to be here. It's not their fault. So get out there and rock. Go show them what they came for, you know? And
it's good you know that, because that might make the difference in, you know, when you're touring on a bill that's got 4 or 5 other bands, that might make all the difference in them liking your band or other band better, you know, just the singer's personality, or if he's smiling.
Metal fans can see right through it. They know if you're fake or if you're really enjoying it.
That's the thing too. Is it if you're like, I think it works for you because you're being yourself. You're not trying to put on, you know, an act and be the metal god or whatever. You're being who you are, and that always comes across. You know, and I guess last couple of questions before we wrap it up is, I was curious, like, what does the name Hemlock mean?
When we were kids, we thought. We wanted to come up with a name that was easy to remember, and we kind of were looking through like thesauruses and stuff, because this is also pre-internet. This is back in '93, and we're like looking around, and hemlock is an actual poison.
Oh,
and
wow.
we're like, all right, cool. That's cool, easy to remember. It's just I like the CK on the end. It's just got a harsh thing, and we were like, you know, so many of these other bands, they have like long names, especially nowadays, and it's hard to remember. I grew up where it's like Exodus, Pantera, you know, Slayer. It's just easy to remember a lot of these names.
Even Anthrax, and you know, it's like I said, that's why I was asking, because even when I went on YouTube today and I typed in the name Hemlock, I can't tell you all the different things that came up, but you know, I had to be a little more specific, like
Hemlock Band or HemlockWorld.com or something,
And
so
It's interesting because I remember even Anthrax had a problem at first. The label didn't really call the band. Oh no, that's a disease and this and that. Well, that's what we want to call the band. But did you have anybody like in the beginning pushing you guys against using that name, or did not a lot of people even know what it meant?
A lot of people don't know what it meant.
See, and I think that's why it works.
Yeah. Shakespeare used it in some of his plays, but hemlock poison is actually what Socrates was forced to drink to commit suicide because he was too radical of a thinker. And I was like, that's pretty cool, because I like when people can open their mind and think for themselves. I try to write lyrics about that where, open your mind and be who you are and believe in yourself, and that the hemlock, it just kind of all ties together. But over the years, we've had people come up and tell us different things, like it's derived from a root of a tree in a bush, so there is a hemlock wood. So some of our friends are like, I'm at the lumber store and I see hemlock wood, that's awesome. And there's a Hemlock, Michigan, because they have a lot of hemlock trees up there, but it's also a poisonous plant down in New Orleans. We were down there for 4th of July. And like, here's all the wild hemlock down here, it's poisonous. But we also had found out that there's a cult, a assisted suicide cult in China. And it's the Hemlock Suicide Cult. We've heard that since. So we're like, well, that's not us. We're not pro-suicide. We're pro-life. We want people to like live and enjoy life and smile,
Yeah.
But and then we also heard that because the root of the plant, that sometimes it's a witch's flying ointment. Somebody told us that before, that you can hemlock poison. And then they came out with that TV show. I don't even remember if it was on Netflix or not, but it was Hemlock Grove. And it's about werewolves and something. I tried watching a couple episodes, and it wasn't really my thing. I never really got into it. But
you know what I love about that is it makes people...
Did you name your band after that show? I'm like, no, we've been out way longer than that. We named it in '93.
You know what I love about the name is anybody doesn't know what it means. I mean, it kind of really makes them think. And if you really want to know what it means, you'll maybe look it up. It's almost kind of like the band Tesla. I of course heard of Nicholas Tesla when I was growing up, but there are a lot of people that never even heard of who that was until they got into the band Tesla. And it's just amazing. Sometimes, like again, to think a metal band or rock band can kind of educate people on more than just music and
history and stuff. I love Tesla. I watched that Nikola Tesla thing also. I mean, I love the band and I love the guy. I watched that Nikola Tesla thing on Netflix, and it's interesting and cool to really see how advanced he was, and then how screwed he got by so many other people just ripping him off and stealing his ideas and all that. But he just wanted to make the world a better place.
I mean, and even today, like Elon Musk, I was reading, named his company after him. So he's getting more and more recognized, I guess, in depth as far as Nikola Tesla.
I bet there's some kids that probably just hear the word Tesla.
I think it's a rock band.
And think of Elon,
Yeah, that's true. I was talking to somebody, and you're so right. And the final thing I was going to ask you about is you're talking about COVID during all the lockdowns. You were like really in that mode of creating music, which I know a lot of people took advantage. And I gotta say that's a great thing, Chad, because there were so many bands that even right now as we sit here and speak are like, we're not going to bother making any new music or releasing anything until all this crap is over. And at this point, who knows when that will be. So I say good job and kind of being in that mode to constantly give your fans some
thank you,
new music.
I appreciate it, because a lot of bands broke up, a lot of clubs closed. I mean, all of it, and there's all just so much negativity out there. And I'm like, I want to be the even if it's not as big as I want it to be, I want to be the little gleaming light of hope and positivity amongst all this negativity. I hate all the division. I hate all the fighting. I just want people to enjoy life and realize that it could be over in a matter of minutes. It could be over in a month. You could live another 30, 40 years, 100 years. You never know. So even when we're on tour, even before all this corona and all this crazy, that I always would tell the guys, I'm like, man, we're in London. You never know if you're going to be here again, so enjoy it, And we're over here in Roswell, New Mexico, and it's a crazy little town, and I love it. And the kids here love us because nobody else tours here, so enjoy it while we're here. We're down in Miami. I'm like, let's go to the beach before the show. Let's enjoy life, And I always was just keeping real upbeat and positive on it, and never thinking that it would get taken away from us, especially here in the States, to where you're not able to tour for 2 years. I mean, so that was definitely a weird
It was ridiculous.
transition, but we're not going to let it affect us. We're just going to stay focused and just keep doing what we do.
I mean, it was ridiculous. Here in LA where I live, it's like even for a whole year, a lot of things we couldn't do. I mean, I couldn't even go to a friggin' movie theater. The movie theaters were shut down. And I mean, it's getting to that point where today in LA, some of the politicians taking a vote where they want every single place you go, even a movie theater, pretty much any place except for maybe a grocery store. You got to prove that you've got a vaccine if you're going to be able to go anywhere. And that's just kind of ridiculous to me. But like, are you at all worried that once you guys start your tour in a couple of weeks that all this stuff about having to wear a mask, have to show proof of the vaccine, you worry at all that's going to affect any of your sales?
We're trying to be neutral on all of it and be aware of it at the same time, because I purposely booked us in the states that are a little more open and a little more relaxed on it, because I don't want to go and put a bunch. I mean, also because we don't have a record label to help bail us out if something goes wrong. It's all on us. We're DIY. Right now, we haven't even done our first show of the tour. We did 2 warm-up shows last month or the beginning of this month, and they were awesome, just to get back on stage and get it going and sell some merch. But we don't have a financial backer. We don't sell drugs. We don't have
no.
We don't have the money to fund it. And as of right now, we're probably close to $10,000 of our own money into this tour, and we haven't even done one show yet. So if the tour were to fall apart or something were to happen, it would be bad news financially.
Yeah.
But we are going to make the money back once we start doing the shows and things go good. So I purposely booked us. And I also do the bookings and everything, even though we got a new booking agent now, and he's helping me kind of contract and finalize the last few dates. But I had booked the tour. We have 32 shows, and we're going to the states that were a little more open and a little more relaxed, because I know it's strict up in Seattle and
everywhere,
and Los Angeles and New York and all that. So we're going to stay more to the Midwest, and we got Colorado, we got Wyoming, we got North and South Dakota, we got Montana. I think we're hitting Nebraska. I think we got one show in Illinois, but and one over in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So we're staying more to the center of the United States, where it's a little more relaxed and not as much of a political agenda, because I feel bad that it's getting to the point to where there is people that are getting sick and people that are getting hurt and whatever from it, but then there's other people that are trying to profit off of it. And I'm like, that's where it's all just going askew, and so many hypocrites and crazies. People are trying to monetize and make money off of the world's suffering. I'm like, this is just crazy.
Yeah, crazy. But through it all, Hemlock is there to bring love and joy with their music. And
years ago, Johnny Santos, he was the singer of Spineshank and Silent Civilian. We were doing a show with them in where we were at, North Platte, Nebraska, and he made a joke on stage. He's all, man, I'll tell you what. He's all at the end of life, when there's like a nuclear fallout. He's all, I'm telling you, all that's going to be left is cockroaches in Hemlock, because Hemlock never quits. And I was like, that's an awesome compliment. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Hemlock perseveres and just keeps going no matter what.
Well, I've really enjoyed getting to know you, Chad. So I hope we keep in touch and can do this again. Maybe when the new album drops, I'd love to.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to get you a couple of the new songs that Logan's been mixing, because they just sound phenomenal.
Well,
he mixed so many huge albums, so to bring new life to the Hemlock albums.
I'll text you later my email. So if you have anything like that, or you just want to stay in touch, and I'm on Facebook, so I'll reach out to you there.
We're in the California area. We play all over out there once things settle down a little bit and we're able to.
So is there anything you want to let people know about before you wrap this up today? Finally, like where can they find you on the web and that?
Our webpage is hemlockworld.com, and our Facebook is Hemlock World. Our Twitter is also the same. Our YouTube is Hemlock World, and of course you can go on there and see the dehumanization video. We've got some other silly, crazy.
And can people purchase merchandise on there?
Yeah. You can go on the store, and we've got like 10 different T-shirt designs that I've designed all of them and drew all the designs, and all the CDs. I've done all the artwork, and so you just go on hemlockworld.com or any of the Facebooks, and you go to the shop. We got a video on YouTube where we filmed in Tombstone, and we wore all these cheesy, crazy Western costumes that we got from Walmart for Halloween.
Oh, wow.
There's all kinds of fun videos. That one's No Money, No Love on YouTube. But,
okay.
But yeah, check it out, and I'm excited to see you in California. We play all over. We played the Whiskey A Go-Go tons of times, but we even play over in Riverside and down in Temecula.
Yeah, I'll continue to follow what you guys do now. Now that I had a chance to get to know you and talk to you, because
we've even played in Taft, California. Not very many people even know where that's at.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, and you mentioned Cliff Burton today and being a Metallica fan. I was going to tell you finally before I let you go. A few weeks ago, I got a chance to interview the drummer Chris from the band Trauma. Of course, that was
Brad.
Cliff Burton's
band before.
Yeah, band right before. So I'll be posting that in a few weeks. I'll let you know when it posts, because I think you'll get a kick hearing that.
Yeah, it'd be cool to hear some of the stories and the history of that for sure. But yeah, I appreciate your time. I'm not even caffeinated right now, and I feel like I rambled a little bit, but I appreciate.
But as you can tell, I like to kind of
excited.
Yeah, I kind of like. I'm the same way. I like to talk about music, and I gotta tell you a real quick, Chad, before I let you go. You should do more and more of these interviews because you give a really great interview.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate it, and I'd love to do another one with you once the new album comes out, the Logan Mader version. It'll be sweet.
Okay, you take care. Bye-bye, Chad.
All right, have a great day. Thank you.